So Tna Impact was a tape show from Jonesboro, Arkansas. And the show starts with Aces and Eights coming out. You have Mr. Anderson, Devon, and D'Lo Brown in the ring. Mr. Anderson takes the mic first, and he holds up an Aces and Eights vest, and basically he makes an offer to AJ Styles, to join the group. And then Devon gets on the mic and he holds up a manila envelope, and he basically says that Bully Ray is going to give this manila envelope to Hogan's daughter later on in the show, and that the contents of the envelope will be something that changes their relationship, like anybody cares about it. And then D'Lo Brown pulls out a letter, and that letter turns out to be a termination notice stating that he no longer has a job with TNA. And he basically says, well, I should have been told in person or over the phone, and not through a letter, basically. Now, on the surface, the way this comes off is, well, D'Lo, what did you expect? You're a member of Aces and Eights. Of course you're not going to have a job with TNA anymore. But I think that particular segment would have made sense if he had said this. Taz is a member of Aces and Eights, and he's still a commentator with TNA. They didn't fire him. So why should I lose my job just because I'm a member of Aces and Eights? Now, if he had just included that into what he was saying, then he would actually have a credible argument. But because he didn't, then basically it just comes off, as just surface rhetoric. Well, of course you're fired. You're with Aces and Eights. Now, the interesting thing about this is that when D'Lo Brown announced that he was fired, you heard a chant from the crowd, "You got fired." And what TNA did is they took 2 crowd shots. And did you notice that nobody was chanting "You got fired" when they showed those 2 crowd shots? So maybe TNA should do this in the future. I understand on tape shows you pipe in audio, but it may be a good idea to not show those kind of close-ups of the crowd where it looks that fucking obvious that you're piping in audio, because nobody was chanting "You got fired." So basically, D'Lo Brown says that he wants a member of TNA management to come out and tell him why he has lost his job. But instead, Kurt Angle comes out. He comes to the ring and jumps on D'Lo Brown, and then of course all the members of Aces and Eights, they all come in the ring and they're all attacking Kurt Angle. And then you have Magnus, Samoa Joe, Eric Young, and Joseph Park all come to the ring, and then a big brawl breaks out, and then the TNA squad turns back Aces and Eights. Now, yeah, I could bitch about 5 guys turning back 7. You know what? I can let it go. See, 4 against 8 from the previous week. Previous week was ridiculous. 5 on 7, I can let that go a little bit. I won't make that much of a big deal about it. So then you had a backstage segment with Joey Ryan and Hogan's daughter and the low-level of acting is self-explanatory, and I really didn't give a fuck about what they were saying, but I did hear Joey Ryan being named the referee for the women's tag team match. Yeah. So then, coming back from the commercial break, we have another Insta-fact. Something about Tna Impact was the most watched show in Germany for 2 weeks in a row. I mean, okay. I mean, I've never known TNA to start dick stroking, but, you know, if it gets you off. So then you had the women's tag team match. Gail Kim and Tara with Mr. Duh against Velvet Sky and Taryn Terrell. Now, Joey Ryan was already in the ring, and he didn't even have a referee shirt on, so that should have told you right there that this was going to be something that was going to quickly diminish into a pseudo comedy match, which is exactly what it was. You know, Joey Ryan did the pre-match, you know, checking for weapons shtick, and he's just feeling on him, and, you know, he slaps Velvet's ass, and then during the match, you know, he doesn't make any pinfall counts when there are pinfall attempts because he's busy staring at, you know, the women's asses, and basically there was some wrestling, yes, but it was built around a pseudo comedy match is basically what it was. So the way the match ended, you know, Gail Kim flirting with Joey Ryan, and Taryn Terrell comes up from behind, rolls up Gail Kim, and Joey Ryan's busy putting oil on himself after he takes his shirt off, and then Gail reverses the roll up, and then he turns around and gives a quick 3, and then, you know, Gail Kim and Tara win the match. So then Joey Ryan comes back to the ring, and I guess he's trying to negotiate a threesome with, you know, Velvet Sky and Taryn Terrell, and Taryn Terrell comes up behind him and, you know, whops his balls, and he goes down, and that was that. Now, hopefully this was the first and last appearance for Joey Ryan as a referee, and it further shows the erosion of the TNA women's division. TNA does not take the women's division seriously at all. It continues to get worse each week. I was interested in seeing what improvement there was from Taryn Terrell from her OVW matches. A little improvement, but not a lot. Gail's still going to have to carry her, and they have a match next week. But in addition to that, Velvet Sky still has no one to defend the title against. And where's Brooke Tessmacher? Where is ODB? And even though we did see Mickie James at the live show in Chicago last March 14th, you know, I thought that this would be the time that they would be in the process of turning Mickie a heel, and we haven't seen her. So once again, it's really a disappointment to see what has been going on with the women's division. And of course, I forgot to mention Tara's terrible heel character, and it's just really bad right now. So then we had a contract signing for the World Tag Team Championship match next week. Robert Roode and Austin Aries defending against Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez, and I really didn't see the point of the segment. I mean, this is something they could have just announced. I mean, and then you could have gotten comments from both teams. I mean, to put this in the guise of a, you know, of a contract signing, I just didn't see the point of it. Anyway, the stipulations are 2 out of 3 falls, and if Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez lose, then they have to split up as a tag team. Now, considering the lack of tag teams in the division, it really wouldn't be surprising to see Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez regain the titles, because they have to continue stalling until it's time to start building the jack-off match that was going to happen at Slammiversary between Roode and Aries and Daniels and Kazarian. So I don't think it would be that big of a deal, even though a lot of people are going to bitch about it, understandably, if Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez win. Now, would that take something away from Roode and Aries as champions? I don't know. But considering the fact that if you eliminate one tag team and leaves you with 2, then you're going to have to push something, you know, way too early, and then, you know, you can no longer do that stalling, and you're going to have to do something, you know, ahead of the point that you're ready to do it, which is pushing this jack-off match. So don't be surprised if Guerrero and Hernandez win. But if they don't, then it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. But they need to get some teams in. I mean, I know I've hammered that point, but, you know, it's becoming more obvious every week. So then we had the gut check. 2 gut check video segments with Adam Pearce and Magno. And then you had the gut check match between the two. Decent match. I thought that within the limitations of a, you know, TV match, I thought Pearce looked good. I mean, there was no surprise, you know, there. Magno was okay. He had a couple of fuck ups. You know, Pearce wins the match, you know, with the help of the ropes. He gets the win. And, you know, next week, of course, will be the evaluation by the judges. And like I said last week, Pearce shouldn't even be going through the gut check. I mean, this is a guy you could sign to the roster now, but okay, you make him go through this. And I'm going to hold my comments about him going to OVW until next week, which I think is some bullshit if it happens, but I'll wait till next week to elaborate on that. So then we had AJ Styles being approached by Mr. Anderson and Mike Knox and Director of Chaos, and Mr. Anderson gives him the Ace and Eights vest and tells him, you know, keep thinking about, you know, joining the group, and, you know, and that pretty much was that. So then you have Hogan coming to the ring, of course, and he says something about he needs one man to be the guy that helps TNA in the battle against Ace and Eight. So he calls out AJ Styles, and AJ Styles comes out. He still has the Aces and Eights vest in his hand, and then of course Hogan goes and runs his mouth as usual, you know. But he eventually asks AJ, you know, to help him in TNA's fight against Ace and Eights. And then AJ speaks. He says, "You want me to help you?" And then James Storm's music plays and he comes out and he cuts one of his better promos. But AJ doesn't respond, and eventually he backs off and leaves. I really didn't like the fact that AJ spoke. I didn't. Because if you were going to have him speak, then you should have had him say more. But the fact that you had him say that one thing and then immediately cut him off, it takes away from it a little bit. Not a lot. It doesn't destroy what they're doing with him, but I just think it would have been better if he had just remained silent and had not spoken. But it's not a disaster. So, but it's still good progression with that particular storyline. So then you had the X Division qualifying match, in which the winner will be in the next X Division Championship match along with Kenny King and Zema Ion. The three participants: Sanjay Dutt, Mason Andrews, and Petey Williams. Well, was there any doubt that Petey Williams was going to win this match? I mean, you're not going to bring this guy back without him doing that Canadian Destroyer. So it was kind of obvious. It was just a matter of just waiting around for him to do it. I mean, it was a solid match, but you knew he was winning. He wasn't losing this match. So he delivers the Canadian Destroyer on Mason Andrews. He gets the win, and he'll be in the next championship match. So then you had Aces Nates backstage, and Bully Ray is hyping the guys up for the 10-man tag team match. And he also talks about how he's going to deal with Hogan's daughter, and So then you had the 10-man tag team match, and you had Aces Nates, Devon, Director of Chaos, Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe, Mike Knox, against Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Magnus, Eric Young, and Joseph Park. It was alright. I mean, with 10-man tag team matches, you just have so much going on, and just too many people involved. I mean, obviously it can't be an elimination match because you don't have enough time to do that, unless you want to see pinfalls every 30 seconds or something like that. And without any specific gimmick stipulations, I mean, it was alright, but it just wasn't going to be anything special, not with that many people and so much crap going on. But Aces and Nates, they win the match. When Director of Chaos, comes from behind and whops Joseph Park in the balls and, pins him. But, Aces and Nates wins another match, so they continue to look strong, so that's fine. Okay, so Bully Ray comes to the ring with the manila envelope, and he starts out by hyping up the Full Metal Mayhem match that he has with Jeff Hardy next week for the World Heavyweight Championship. Then he turns his attention to Hogan's daughter and calls her out, and she comes out with her security and that cheesy theme music. And this has nothing to do with Bully Ray, because we all know he's great on the mic, but I tune this out. I can't take him seriously with her standing there. It doesn't matter what comes out of his mouth, as good as it is, I just can't tune in. Not with her standing there with that same dumb facial expression that she always displays, no matter what type of emotion she's trying to express. So anyway, he hands her the manila envelope, and the contents are, turn out to be a front row ticket, and he gives her a front row ticket for next week's show so she can watch the match between, you know, him and Jeff Hardy. And then he continues to verbally berate her, and she stands there with the same facial expression. And then Jeff Hardy's music comes out, and he comes out, and then he yells at her to get out of the ring. And then Hardy and Bully Ray start brawling, and that's how the show ends. Now, this was not how the show was supposed to end. If anyone had read the spoilers, a lot more happened after the point where the show ended. What actually happened was Taz helped Bully Ray slide a table into the ring and a ladder. Bully Ray was set Hardy on the table. Then Hardy somehow recovers, and he hit a twist of fate on Bully Ray, and Bully Ray was laid out on the table, and then Hardy climbed the ladder, comes off the ladder, and puts Bully Ray through the table. That's how the show ended. But we didn't see that last night, and I'm wondering why. I mean, it was a taped show, so there was no reason why it shouldn't have been there, but maybe they thought it would make Bully Ray look too weak going into next week's match. I don't know. But the fact that it, you know, we didn't see that, okay, it may have been a creative call, but the show definitely wasn't supposed to end that way. Now, of course, the rumblings continue about Hogan's daughter joining Aces and Eights. Now, the fact that there were two interesting possible clues. One, the fact that he yelled at her to get out of the ring. Now, even though he screamed it, why would he care about her well-being after verbally berating her the way he did? Obviously, he had to yell at her to get out, to maybe to disguise, you know, telling her to get out for her safety. And then, of course, giving her the front row ticket so she can be there with the possibility of her getting involved. Look, I still don't get why they're doing this with Bully Ray and Hogan's daughter. Why don't you just give Bully Ray three strippers? Give him some strippers that he can kiss and rub on and grab their ass and look at their tits and just make him look like a goddamn pimp. But no, bog him down with Hogan's daughter, because that, of course, makes much more sense than giving Bully Ray some strippers to play with. No, Hogan's daughter makes much more sense, because I guess, you know, if she joins Aces and Eights, they're going to give her this magic Aces and Eights vest. And, you know, when she puts it on, she's going to be able to finally display something called talent. But no. Doesn't matter what they do. You are never going to see that out of her. Now, it's clear why this eventual turn is going to happen. Because that's what Hogan wants. Because it's always what Hogan wants. Always. I'm TazMart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for April 4th, 2013. Please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general that you would like to ask me, get at me on Twitter, TazMark2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, shoot an email toward me. TazMark2002 gmail.com. It was a decent show. Continuing the hype for next week, which should be a pretty interesting show next week. You know, there's a phrase that people like to use for a show or a storyline of a show that reaches a point of ridiculousness that it cannot recover from. The phrase is called jumping the shark. If Hogan's daughter joins Aces and Eights, ... I'm Tazmark 2002. Gone.